Here we go. Hello, everybody. Um, gotta explain a little bit. I am planning on recording and uploading more Moonlight Peaks gameplay. Unfortunately, the problem is that I'm currently kind of stuck at home because I'm expecting a delivery. Um, so long story short, my phone case, which I have had for years, finally is starting to disintegrate. So I was telling Keith about it, and the neat thing about where Keith works is that occasionally he'll get vouchers for things. Like he's given me a voucher before for Marks and Spencer, which is a department store. They sell like clothing, all kinds of different stuff, shoes, slippers. They have men's department. They have a really nice ladies department that's spread out over a few different areas. And so but anyway, he I told him about it, and at first I was like, hey, can I have, 10 pounds because I, my phone case, I need a new one. And he was like, yeah, look on Amazon, look and see what they've got, and we'll see what we can do. So I didn't even get a chance to go to Amazon, um, which is fine because that day I was mainly working on, it's gotten to be more of a busy time at the Marvel Forum, and so a lot of people are now posting and plotting together and that kind of stuff. So I have several posts to reply to, so I'm taking it like two or three at a time, trying to post for, and I have several plots with like three or four different people. So I'm currently working my way through those. So I didn't really have the chance to, you know, to look at anything. And so all of a sudden Keith sends me, I'll show you a picture of it. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if you guys can see that really well. But number one, the case is purple, which is my absolute favorite color. And number two, it's not just a phone case. It's like a little wallet. So, I can put like my debit card in there. I can put my ID in there. I can put because it comes with a little folding cover that has little slots like a wallet does. And so he was like, what do you think about this one? And I was like, yeah, I really like that. And he was like, well, I have a work voucher. I'll order it for you. And so I was like, okay, that'll work. And so, yeah, it's supposed to arrive sometime today. So, which is one of the reasons why I'm holding off on doing Moonlight Peaks, because like if the dude rings the phone, because we have one of those outside, like if you know the number of the flat you're trying to reach, hit that button, and we have our number on there. So I'm expecting, don't know when, but I'm expecting sometime today to get a call on the phone that's, I don't know if you guys can see. The phone that's on the wall right there, the little white thing. But yeah, so I'm expecting at some point to get a little tone that goes off, and I'll go to the phone, answer it, and be like, "It's Amazon," you know. And I'll be like, "Yeah, come on in." And I have to hit a button to open the door, and unless the other possibility is that they might come up at just the same time as someone else is coming out or going into the building, so they can go in right behind them. So I'm also kind of half expected knock at the door, or to like go out to check, because I'm always super, not paranoid, but like I tend to overthink things. I tend to worry about things too much. So, like last time I got to go to the bathroom, because the bathroom's right back there. So I opened the door and checked the hallway. See, and then I hear things like that, and I think, oh, maybe they're leaving the package, and everything. I'm assuming I won't have to sign for it, but one never knows. Maybe I will have to sign for it anyway. But yeah, so that's what I'm waiting for currently. I'll be very excited when it shows up. But yeah, I'm assuming tomorrow probably I'll have the tomorrow probably I'll be able to show off my new thing and my new purchase and all that and stuff like that. I have to say, I really love that Keith's work gives him vouchers every once in a while, and it's like, like he normally uses them on me or gives them to me for me to use. I love that. It's like, it's just so cool. It's something I'm still not used to yet. Because, like I said, back when I lived with my parents, and even throughout most of my adult life before I met Keith, I definitely had to buy mostly my own stuff, if you know what I mean. Which is why I work like full time most places, because, it's like, okay, I need the money, so let's see if we can find a job so we can get the money. So the other thing I wanted to show you guys, I don't know if it's started yet. I think it's supposed to start tomorrow, but Sky, one of the games that I played on both my Switch and my cell phone. They're coming out with a new season. I don't know if you guys can tell from the picture. It's all about Van Gogh. And let me just say the trailer made me cry, number one. So I'm thinking it's more like it's gonna be like Season of Little Prince. I know I've talked before about that was my first season while playing Sky, and it just broke me at the end. I don't remember, but for any new people, if you want to hear the story, here it is. Try to make this relatively quick, but I'm not a quick person, but anyway. So Season of Little Prince was all about the book The Little Prince, which, to keep it semi-short, it's about a guy who crashes his plane into a desert somewhere and ends up interacting with a little boy who claims to be a prince and claims to live on a very small planet out in the universe with a special friend of his who's a rose, a sentient rose. And so basically, like the Little Prince story is good. It's kind of a bit like, I've actually read the story. I have the book. It's in this cupboard right there. But like, I've read the story, and it's, it's a pretty good story. It's a little bit political, and of course Sky, it isn't really political as far as I've been aware, or anything, but they adapted the story of the Little Prince for it to fit Sky. So, spoilers for the Little Prince book if you haven't read it yet. I would recommend it. It's a classic. It's good. And the version of the book I have, it kind of gets autobiographical. Like when the story ends, the author kind of talks about what the story is based on. That's based on a friend of his that was in a war and disappeared or whatever, and so he made his friend the Little Prince. They made his friend into the character. And so basically, so in the book, the Little Prince, kind of he's kind of unusual. He kind of talks to the pilot character, and he kind of shares stories. It's like, oh, I went to see this person, and they were like this, and it's supposed to resemble, political figures and or king royalty of the day, that kind of thing. And so he tells the story, but then the story is basically like he needs to get back to his rose, because his rose is not doing well without him. And in the game Sky, it shows the rose wilting at the end of every adventure, and you get the sense of, oh, he's got to get back. But he's stuck. In the book and in the Sky game, he's stuck. And so there's kind of a oh, what you want to call it, there's kind of a sense of urgency. Well, in the book, he meets a fox who's also sentient. Like, every animal in this game is, like, sentient. It can talk and think and reason and all that. And so he's like, so the fox is like trying to tell the little prince what to do, and and eventually the little prince meets a snake, and the snake is pretty much like, the only way you can get back to your rose is to, pass from this mortal coil. And so, so like in the book, the little prince goes back, tells the pilot, and the pilot is like, don't do that, I can help you. Because keep in mind, the pilot throughout all this is trying to fix his plane, trying to repair his plane. And he's like, once my plane is fixed, I'll take you and you can get back to your rose, or at least part way. And, well, the little prince doesn't listen. Again, spoilers. The little prince doesn't listen. The little prince goes to the snake, lets him bite him, and basically that's what frees him. And then he goes back. And I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it kind of also reminds me of the resurrection story in the Bible, with like Jesus rising on the third day and being like, why are you sad? I told you this would happen, kind of thing. And so he's like, and so in the game, they obviously, like, Sky doesn't have like a snake. So, and considering Sky is somewhat of a kid's game, they don't want to put scary imagery in that, but to some extent. But instead, what Sky has are krills, which are not the little tiny little things that swim in water and are harmless. These are big, black, dragon-like things that fly in the sky, and if they see a sky kid, their nose turns from blue to red, and if you don't get out of the way and get to safety, they will dive on you and take some of your light away. So, but yeah, it's interesting, because, like, the first few, like, it happens every week or every so often, like, you'll log into the game, it'll be like a new quest is available, and you can go on adventures, and a lot of times the adventures are like normal adventures, you go to explore different areas in Sky, or you go to, like, it was in the Starlight Desert, which is a little offshoot of the very last realm of the land before you get to Eden. And so there's a thing where, well, and the story I always like to tell, and maybe I've told this story already, so old timers hang on, I'm getting done with it, I promise. But when I first started playing Sky, like, I knew the bit. I knew that I had to eventually go to Eden. But I also, from like everything I saw online, it looked like it was really hard to get through. And so I wasn't necessarily scared of, because basic thing is that Sky is supposed to represent stages of your life. Like, Dawn is like when you are first born. Daylight Prairie is when you're a kid, and it's fun and playful, and there's butterflies and all that kind of stuff. Then it increasingly gets either harder or more challenging, or it's that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, if you go through Vault of Knowledge, which is the last main realm, if you successfully complete it and saved the spirits and relieved their stories and everything like that, then you get up to the top, you light the candles, and then, you get to see everyone, but then you get to see where you go next. And, like, the image is this dude who obviously looks like he's in pain, but I mean, it's not graphic. It doesn't show, like, blood or anything like that. So, and then basically it drops you back at the very bottom of the map, because in this map you keep ascending. You keep going higher and higher and higher until you reach the top, and where you can light the candles and meet the elder of the vault. And, like, there's one elder in each section, and the first time you start the game and go through it, you're supposed to rescue or relive the memories of all the spirits that are in the area, take them to the temple, and then they go up and they rejoin whatever constellation they're a part of. It's really cool. It's very star-based, if that makes sense. Like, everything's like a constellation and stuff. And then, you have to go through and collect, like, these little wing lights. But, like, once you get done with Vault of Knowledge, it, like, drops you right back toward the beginning. But, like, things are different. And then you have two choices. You can go back to, your home area, or you can go down this long hallway that will lead you to where you enter Eden. And when I first started playing this game, I did not want to go to Eden because I thought it was going to be really hard, and I didn't know if I could do it. And also, I didn't really understand, like, I know some people have said that when they first played Eden, went through Eden, that they thought that was the end of the game, that their purpose was to die, and then the game would end, and whatever. But no, it's like, spoilers again, but every time you go through Eden and you ascend to what's called orbit, but could also be called heaven or whatever pleasant afterlife, But, like, it's stars and all lit up and everything, and, there's a little bit of lore there, too, with Aurora, who was in the later season. But anyway, we are talking about Little Prince. So, like, I did not want to go to Eden. I was just perfectly happy running around exploring the areas, picking up things I was supposed to, doing quests, all that. And I was avoiding it. Well, then I started playing, I came in, like, right at the beginning of the season of Little Prince, and so I was playing it and enjoying it, because, like I said, a lot of it was innocent, and, Little Prince going, adults are sure weird, like interacting with Sky's version of the characters from the story, from the book. And so then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, and then I'm trying to remember when I figured out that the Little Prince was going to Eden, because there's one quest that starts out in Starlight Desert, and keep in mind, also, Eden is shown as this big mountain that almost looks like a volcano, like it's got stuff erupting from it and everything. And so, the more realms you go through, the closer you get to Eden, but you still can't go walk to it. Well, there's this one quest in The Little Prince where you basically follow the prince, and he basically tells you, without outright telling you, don't be sad when sad for me, but, just remember our good times, our happy memories. And, immediately, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh crap. And in the game, there's like this cutscene where, like, you meet up with the prince, and you talk and stuff. He says stuff like that. And then you fall asleep, and you wake up, and the prince is gone, and you keep walking, you follow him from a distance, and you see him talking to a krill. And keep in mind that all throughout the game, we're told, avoid the krill, don't let them see you. So, in the cutscene, the Little Prince is sitting on like a little half wall, and the krill comes up, shines his light on him, and my little character is like, no, wait, he's gonna take your light, he's gonna, and, but it just shows how, like, in the book, the Little Prince makes a deal with the snake. In the game, the little Prince makes a deal with the krill. Or, like, the krill tells him where to go. It's like, oh, you wanna, you don't want to be here anymore. You want to get back home. Go through there. And so the Little Prince is like going there, and then the next cutscene you get is the Little Prince making his way through Eden. And the thing about Eden is, like, it's really hard. It's supposed to represent death, I think. But a lot of Sky Kids call it hell because it's basically red and black and glowing rocks that hurt you if you get near it. And rocks rain down on you can hurt you all and all that. And so you come across all these statues that are Sky Kids who tried to get through Eden before you. And so all the winged light you've been gathering throughout the game, because there's like these little glowing little figures that you have to collect. And you have to get as much wing light as possible. Because the point is to give up that wing light once you reach the final part of Eden. And it's a little traumatic the first time, but it's also kind of cool because, like, you don't really do anything to absorb the wing light, but to get the wing light out, you jig into yourself, and it's like, and toss it at whatever statue you're doing that. And you're supposed to do that to as many statues as possible. You're supposed to, like, revive them. And that also helps you get the monetary, the thing they use for money in this game is candles. So the more candles you have, the more stuff you can get, the more of the spirits' costumes you can buy, that kind of thing. And you can also use real money too, but I don't do that hardly at all anymore. Just because I don't have a job and I don't really. I feel kind of stupid asking Keith, hey, can I have £10 so I can buy this thing from this game? But anyway, not that he wouldn't do it if he could, but, just also, like, I kind of feel silly about it. But anyway, I'm rambling, sorry. So in the game, the final cutscene you get, well, not the final cutscene, but the cutscene you get, the cutscene that made me gird up my loins, so to speak, pull my bootstraps up and be like, okay, we gotta do this. We gotta go to Eden. Is you see the little prince struggling through that final section of Eden, and he turns into a statue. And so you're like, how come? If you're anything like me, I know what anybody else's reaction was, but my reaction was, okay, we're doing this. And I marched up to that gate, opened it, went through Eden the first. I fought through the whole thing because I was like, he is not dying, not gonna be alone through this. And so you go through and you give your light to other Sky Kids who couldn't make it through and all that, and then you finally get rid of all your light and you become a statue. But the other cool thing is you fall into the next cutscene is you fall into this void. And also, before I go any further with more spoilers, please go play this game if you can. It is so good, and it's available on pretty much any platform. I think you can get it on Xbox. I think you can get it on PlayStation. You can get it on the Switch. I don't know about the Switch 2 yet, but you can at least get it on the Switch 1. You can get it on your phone. You can get it for iOS and Android, I believe. Different things. But it is a game you have to go, you need to experience for yourself. At least your first time through it, you need to experience it raw, because that's what I did. And let me tell you, when I say I broke down in tears, I broke down in tears. Okay, so I'm going to assume everyone that's left are people who have either played the game before or don't care about being spoiled. So we're continuing on from this point. So I went through Eden, and after you give up all your light and become a statue, your self falls into a void, and you walk just a little ways until you see another ring light, but this one's different. This one doesn't just stand there. This one is your, is like your other half, is kind of what I want to say. And there's a theory about this that I kind of like, because the whole backstory of this game is that, like I said, each realm has an elder. Each realm has somebody who looks over everything, who takes care of everything, who kind of rules over the place and all that. And I love, they all have different personalities. They all are different types and that kind of stuff. So I like that. But again, like the other thing is that, like it's revealed once you go through Vault of Knowledge, it is revealed that there's one more realm to go to, and you see this figure of this person who is like on their knees, kind of almost seeming to be stuck, and they have a crown on their head. So it turns out, long story short, there was prophecy, and of course it had to deal with the chosen one. And way back in the Isle of Dawn, one of the spirits you can relieve their memory of is a lady who sees a sky kid fall from the sky, fall from heaven, because all these spirits were in heaven before we're up in the sky. We're like constellations and stuff. And for some reason, they decided to fall and descend to not Earth, but descend to and make their home in the clouds. And so it's kind of there's a bit of lore, but again, like one of the things I like about Sky is they don't just spell out the lore for you. You have to figure it out. And if I remember right, the game has like its own website, and some of the developers will talk about things, or like they've released like old art concept art that they've used for like different realms and stuff. And it's interesting to see changes from the concept art to what it is now. And so it's kind of so the basic premise of the story is that the young sky kid fell from the sky, fell from heaven, the stars, whatever, and was adopted by this lady and her partner and her husband, I believe it is. It's been a while since I've done that spirit, so it's not, I don't quite remember, but it's one of the, like, you get emotes from each spirit you collect, and like the remote of this gal is like, come over here, kind of thing. So she's talking to somebody, so somebody's with her when she comes across the child who fell. And so basically, as far as what I understand lore to be, basically they adopt this young kid. They gave him a name. I don't remember what the name is right now, but they adopt him, they give him a name, and then there's an area of Isle Dawn where you can go in and you go through 4 trials. There's trial of water, trial of air, trial of earth, and trial of fire. And I cannot even get through Isle of Water, a trial of water, so like I said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I have not been able to get through the first trial, much less any of the others. But apparently, the Sky Kid was able to successfully complete all the trials, and there was prophecy that said something to the effect of the person to complete all 4 of the trials will be the ruler. So he ends up becoming the king, and he's like the king over the whole area, the whole kingdom, but he doesn't rule each realm. But it's kind of like if I had to say, I'd say it was kind of sort of like the way England is, where like you've got the royal family and they can make decrees and they can, and they can suggest laws and stuff, but the council or whatever it is, the prime minister and all that, they have to collaborate. Kind of the same way it's supposed to be in the United States, where the president is supposed to work with the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court and all that, and be like, I want this law to pass, and then they work together, and then they, work toward the process of making a law. But, so anyway, so basically this young man grows up, becomes the king, and gets most of the other elders in on this project he has of making a giant, because diamonds and like gems are like a huge part of this game too, So he is he gets a little power hungry and he decides, oh, okay, I'm gonna make this giant power crystal and it's gonna store all of the power in it for all of the realms, and that way we won't ever run out of power. The problem is, to get all that power, they have to take it from living creatures. And there are a lot of creatures, there were at the time a lot of creatures that were creatures of light. They had like mantas, they had like whale type creatures, they had fish, birds, butterflies, all that. And that's one of the other cool things. When you first play this game, like, there's not a lot of light creatures because they've all or mostly had their light taken from them in order to use for this giant power crystal. And yeah, it is kind of we gotta protect nature because, once nature's gone, we're trashed, Earth will be basically worthless, and stuff. Or at least that's the message that they're kind of trying to get across. But again, I love they don't ever say anything to that extent. It's all like figured out. Like, if anything, there's like, you'll go up to like a rock formation and you'll light a candle, and then all of a sudden this mural will appear, and they'll give you a bit of the story. And so, I don't know, I just find it really fascinating. I love stories that don't. I love when games that don't like. This is the message. This is the moral. This is the. They let you find out on your own. I love those types of games. But anyway, again, I'm rambling. So I just really like this game so much, and it's kind of a cool. It can get a little grindy at times. Like I said, there's a lot of. You run the risk of not being able to participate in things. Like, every season they have like a season pass which you have to pay money for, but then you get everything that the spirits offer. And they also have like hearts. They have like candles you can buy stuff with, but they also have hearts, and hearts are harder to get because you basically need to be given hearts from other players, or give hearts to other players, and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of hard when you're a solo player like I am at the moment. And, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, so like I want to, I want to give a heart, or I need hearts, But like the other good thing too, is like when the season starts, or every week, part of a week, one of the spirits will come back and stand in your home space, and you can go buy things from them if you have hearts and or candles, and you don't have their mask or their cape or their outfit or whatever, or their props, or that kind of thing. And anyway, to get back to the story, so, you basically, you reunite with this part of you that is essentially a winged light, and you have the ability to fly again, you have your cape back, but you're essentially all light. You become like a winged light. And so you go through and you gather the ruins of this castle, and you end up flying up into the sky and into the stars, and and stuff. And then eventually you fly into the light, into this big round ball of light, and you get into what they call orbit. And it's basically, you go in and every statue that you manage to reactivate with one of your wing lights lands in front of you, thanks you, and then becomes light, like goes up into the sky, and then you can go through and absorb them, and it gives you ascended candles, which you need for certain things, for certain cosmetics and that kind of stuff. But so anyway, so you go through, and normally when you do that, you basically run through, and each spirit that you've rescued, that you've relived their memories, that you've helped to come back to orbit, to the sky, to their constellations, stand on either side of you, and they give you wing light back. And so, like, you'll end up, it kind of depends. You'll end up with, like, anything from, like, 5 wing light to, over 100 wing light. It just kind of depends on how many spirits you've ascended, how many spirits you've helped. But the really cool thing is, you go through that, and then you start heading to, there's a portal you have to go through, and when you go through the portal, it says you are about to be reborn. And so it kind of stays on that for a minute or two, and then your little sky kid comes down like a shooting star and lands at wherever your home is. And so then you get up and do it again. But the cool thing is, in Season of the Little Prince, they added another cutscene where you get through the characters, and you got part of your cape back, and the little prince is there. And, like, I don't remember exactly what he says, but he says something to the effect of, "I knew you'd be here." And then he reaches out, and you can take his hand. Sorry, that's all he gets, babe. And you can walk through the portal together. And then after you go through the portal, it's like stated that he goes back to his planet and his rose, and they're both fine and all that. And it's really kind of cool because there's a quote in the book where the little prince talks to the pilot, like, right before he goes off and to get back to his rose, and he's like, look at the stars. Do you hear them laughing? They will all be your friend. And it's just beautiful. Because, like, I remember watching, I don't think I ever got to see the second movie. They made, like, 2 movies. They made, like, one movie back in, like, the 70s or 80s. I don't remember exactly how old I was when I watched it. But I remember watching it just going, that's really cool. You know. And, like, I've always liked stargazing. I don't get to do it that often now because, Britain, the city, and it's hard to see the stars sometimes. But I've always enjoyed stargazing. I've always enjoyed learning the stories of the constellations and hearing, how certain stars were, certain constellations came to be and that kind of thing. And so, but yeah, I remember being scared to, not death, but being really scared and being like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can go through it. And then being like a super, like, I remember my heart sinking at the end of that one quest where it's like it showed the little prince continuing on toward the mountain and knowing what was there and being like, no, and then logging on the next time and seeing that little cutscene, seeing little prince struggling to go through that last part of Eden and turn into a statue, and then I was like, that's it, you're not messing with my friend, you're not messing with the little prince. He needs to get back to his rose. He needs to be free to live his life. I'm coming, and like marching up to the gate of Eden and being all like, because there's force field over each realm, and there's especially a force field over Eden, and because you need to have like a certain amount, like with the other realms, you just have to go through them once and they'll always be open to you. Whereas Eden, you need to have a certain number of wing light in order to just survive in there. So, I just remember being like, oh my gosh. So, yep, I saved him, and I remember sitting at the end of that. And also keep in mind, this was my first time going through orbit and seeing all the, it's beautiful. Whoever's the artist who did that whole thing, oh my gosh, pay them more money, because It is so gorgeous. And, you know, so, yeah. So you go through, yes, get the little prince back home. You get to walk with him through the portal, send him off, and then you go back, and you end up being. You think, oh, it's gonna end. It's gonna drop me back off at home. No, you get dropped back off at Starlight Desert. You ascend that hill, and the other funny thing is that hill is where you originally met the prince. And so you walk up the hill, and you hear his voice, and it all says on screen, like it types it out for you. And then you hear his laugh. And it's like, he's home. He's home with his roads. He's home safe again. And it's just really cool. I still think that's the best season they've had so far. But this coming season just might give me the same amount of more, because this is all about Vincent Van Gogh. It's all about that painter who did Starry Night, who did all those. And, like, here's the other reason I'm looking forward to it. Because Keith and I got caught up. Or Keith let me watch and get caught up on all of the new Who. Like, I told him I hadn't seen several episodes, and so we watched those episodes in order. And again, spoilers, but the 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith, has an episode where they go to see and they get to become friends with Van Gogh. And spoiler episode, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's really good. But for those of you who don't care about being spoiled or have seen the episode already, it ends with the 11th Doctor and his companions taking Van Gogh into the future so he can see, because it starts out with the Doctor and his companion at an art museum where they're having a exhibit of Van Gogh's works. And that's what gets the adventure going, because the companion is like, oh, I wish we could go see Van Gogh. Looking at the Doctor, kind of wink, wink, you know. So they go to visit him and help him out, you know, as much as they can. But, you know, Van Gogh suffered from issues during his life, and so Amelia, who ends up being very important to Doctor Who lore, but I'm not going to spoil that. If you know, you know. But basically, Amelia's like, can't we take Vincent to that exhibit? Can't we let him see what his work means to so many people? And so they do, and it's really kind of cool, because Vincent is emotionally affected, or at least the person who plays Vincent. is emotionally affected by this, and he just looks around and he's got tears running down his face. And again, I was an emotional wreck during this, and was just like, oh yeah, maybe that'll change something. But it didn't. So again, spoilers. But, Vincent died at a probably way too young age. And still didn't believe that his work was, he was kind of one of those artists that was appreciated more after his death. And so he was like, oh, So Amelia was like one of the doctor's companions, was devastated, and she was like, why didn't that change things? And it's like, and the doctor said something pretty wise. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but it was basically essentially that sometimes all we can do is give them a good day, Sometimes it's not enough, but sometimes all we can do is just give them a good day to remember it, And I really like that. Because, it's true. I think we all suffer with something at one point or another in our lives, whether it's depression or even just being really sad about something, or not knowing what to do, or being unsure which direction to go, or, like, it doesn't have to be as serious as, having depression or having, mental issues and stuff like that. But people who do suffer from those things deserve support and kindness and all that. So, because we all do. At one point or another in our lives, we all experience something like that. We all, or at least I know several people who have, have felt worthless at certain points, who have felt like, like they don't matter, like they don't mean anything. I know I've suffered from that. And, like, the cool thing is that there are good days and there are bad days. And, like, yeah, we need to make sure everybody can get the help they need, regardless what their problem is, regardless what their situation is. But, but, like, sometimes it only helps them now. Like, it probably helped Vincent. And, like, I'm realizing that both these are fictional and, but, considering how Sky did Little Prince and everything, I'm really looking forward to it, because apparently we as Sky Kids get to enter his paintings and get to explore his paintings and probably get to see, how he felt painting them and everything. And so I'm assuming it'll be a little, like, not dark. Because, like I said, Sky is pretty much a kid's game. Although adults can play it, I would definitely recommend it to anybody, regardless of age. But, yeah. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I think it starts tomorrow. Now that I'm looking at my calendar and see that it's the 16th. I'm thinking that it's definitely going to start tomorrow. But yeah, if I can, I will try to show that to you guys sometimes, because I'm also assuming it's going to be pretty as anything, because, it's Van Gogh's painting, and his paintings are for the most part pretty as anything. So, but yeah, so that's the deal. And I'll finish this off, because I probably have been rambling for quite a bit. So I figured tomorrow, maybe this afternoon, we'll see what happens. I can record more footage of the Moonlight Peaks demo. It is back up to its original price on Steam, which is like 34 something. So there's no way I'm gonna spend 34 bucks on a game. I'm sorry. But no. But yeah, that doesn't mean we can't continue to play the demo. If you guys want to play the game, go for it. Because like I said, I think it's a really good demo. So I definitely think it'd be a good game for people to play. I just, at the time, cannot afford it. But maybe in the future. And of course I will let you guys know if I'm able to pick it up at some point in the future, and maybe we can play through the whole game. In the meantime, once we are done with the demo, I was debating on what game to play next. We still have Shep RPG that we're still plodding through, trying to get through. I have Roots of Paka, which is a farming simulator, but back in like caveman days almost. So that might be kind of interesting to start a new playthrough of. There's also Oxenfree, which is another game I'm considering getting the sequel to, because it looks like it maybe resolves the outcome of the first game. Maybe. But anyway, so Oxenfree's a bit more spooky. It's kind of scary in parts, I think. So, I don't know. Give me a thumbs up on the video if you would like us to try Oxenfree. If not, what I might do is, because we're still waiting for the 1.7 update on Stardew Valley, I was also considering, once that update hits and is finished, because we get two new marriage candidates, and one of them is Clint Blacksmith, which is kind of controversial because he's like made out to not be the best guy in the valley, but it kind of depends on how you look at him, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, we have that. And then we have Sandy, who we don't get to meet until one of the things we have to do in the community center, or if you go the JoJo route and just buy everything, you get the bus to be repaired, and basically you can go to Calico Desert and meet Sandy, who's a really good friend of Emily, who's one of the bachelorettes in town. And so she is the other marriage candidate. And so, like, I'm kind of curious, because I like the idea of Sandy, but Clint, I'm kind of curious to see what approach, like, I don't know if Clint will get, like, a redemption arc, if he'll get, to a point where, if he'll get more cutscenes that show that he's more nuanced than he comes across. I don't know. But anyway, so I was thinking about that. So if you want to leave a comment, let me know what you're leaning toward. Because, I'm willing to start a new playthrough of that once that update hits. And then we can, like, I might put up a poll and say, should we go after? Sandy and or Clint. Like I said, I'm really curious about Clint. I'm really curious about what Concerned Ape is gonna do about the way he's perceived by a lot of people. If he's going to lead into that, make him kind of more of a controversial marriage candidate, or if he's going to try to redeem him. Like, I don't know. Like, that's interesting. So, anyway, like I said, leave a comment if you feel like it. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know which game you would be more interested in playing. But yeah. Like I said, hopefully expect Moonlight Peaks gameplay tomorrow, if not later on today. But I'll get this uploaded for you guys, and I'll talk to you later.